Welcome to the Prosper in Private Practice podcast. I'm Claire Feldman, here to guide you to a thriving private practice without burnout. If you're a counsellor or therapist seeking more aligned clients, flexible hours and financial stability, then join me. As a therapist of 12 years, I've turned my own challenges into success, so let's grow your dream private practice together. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hi everyone, and welcome to this solo podcast episode today where I'm going to be talking about therapist fee setting and why it is okay for us to charge more for our services. Maybe first of all, we'll just chat a little bit about why do we find it so difficult and so uncomfortable when it comes to talking about money as therapists. It's definitely something I have been on a bit of a journey with myself, and maybe you yourself, when you think about fee setting, when you think about maybe increasing your fee, is it something that you feel really comfortable doing, or might there be some doubts and some fears that come up? And certainly what I'll see an awful lot with people that I'm mentoring is that there's a desire for them to increase the fee, but the amount that they will tell me they're going to increase their fee by is always much smaller than what they actually want and what they actually desire. And that always leads to a conversation around why, what is that is stopping you from stating the fee that you want to charge. So I think there are some common fears that come up when we talk about therapists and money. I think that we can worry that we might be perceived as being greedy. We're in a helping profession. We've trained for a long time. We've maybe done a lot of voluntary work. We've maybe worked in a lot of low-cost counselling organisations. And so when we're in a profession where we are helping people, that maybe we feel that there could be some perception of greed with wanting to charge a higher fee. And this is a bit of a reality, and this is something I've actually seen among other therapists, to be completely honest. I remember seeing in a face, this is probably going back several months, but there was a therapist who posted in the group. She had an income goal, and she was wanting to know from the rest of the group whether the income goal that she was setting herself was realistic. And oh my God, there was such a divide created in that post, in that there were maybe half the therapists were go for it, why not? You might have to, maybe offer supervision services, maybe you need to create courses, but yeah, absolutely, you go for it. If that's your income goal, why not? And then on the other half was, oh my God, talk about being non-judgmental. There was a lot of comments oh, what a shame that you got into this career for greed, and no God, nobody could afford to pay your services charging that amount of money, and oh my goodness, I'm feeling what a shame that this is what your priority is. What about your poor clients? There was all sorts of comments along that line, and I thought, my goodness me, look at how much even as therapists we can get conflicted and divided when it comes to money. So there is definitely an element of that we could be negatively perceived, not just by other people or by potential clients, but by other therapists as well. And obviously that we can worry too much about what other people might think. I think there's a bit of a norm as well that therapists, whenever we're looking at setting fees, rather than actually doing the calculations, working out how much you actually need to charge in order for you to meet your personal, needs and wants and cover your expenses, rather than doing it from a factual, non-emotional business calculation perspective, what therapists tend to do is look and see what's the norm? What is everybody else charging? What are other therapists in my area charging? Because we don't like to stand out from the crowd. We don't like to do anything that's a little bit different. We don't want to do anything that might make us more visible. And so we choose a fee that just kind of fits in the ballpark of what other therapists are doing. And certainly when I started 12 years ago, I think the average fee then maybe would have been about in my area, £35 to £40. So as a newly qualified therapist, my thoughts were, well, if I make myself cheaper, then that's how I'm going to get more clients, and that's what I'm going to do. So I think I maybe charged £30 a session, but I offered then discount for block booking, which meant that it worked out maybe 25, maybe even less than 25 a session. I was renting a room. I was driving to the location where I was renting a room. I wasn't taking payment in advance. So I had a terrible relationship with money, and essentially was losing out financially, that I was maybe driving and paying room rental, and then a client was no showing or cancelling, and I hadn't taken payment in advance. So I was losing out financially, and in the end I actually ended up leaving private practice and going into work in GP surgeries and community organisations, and only revisited private practice around 5 or 6 years ago. So I have had a terrible relationship with money and difficulties around setting fees and valuing my services. Thankfully, it's something I've worked on and don't have that same issue now, but I can definitely relate to that kind of believing if we go lower that might serve us more in some way, and it really doesn't. And you might also then have a concern that if you increase your fee, that clients are not going to be able to afford you. We're in the middle of a cost of living crisis, so it would be unfair or unreasonable for you to increase your fees. And what I would say is definitely lowering your fees will not make a difference. You dropping your fees by £5 or something like that isn't going to actually attract any more clients in. And also that it's really important for us to not make assumptions about what our clients can and cannot afford, or what they are willing to invest in or not. That I think sometimes we can get too caught up in making our own assumptions about clients' wealth or lack of wealth, or what clients value and want to choose to spend their money on, and it's not for us to make that assumption. So those are some of the common fears that come up. I think that fear of judgment is a huge one. We worry way too much about what other therapists might think, or what other people in general might think for what we do. And I think a lot of that is attached to, like I said, being in a helping profession, but also perhaps because we have spent so much time maybe volunteering or working in low cost or community organisations, that when we make that transition into private practice and it's us ourselves personally taking the money or taking the transaction, that it can feel quite uncomfortable and feel quite difficult to do. But I'm hoping through listening to this podcast today to be able to help you in the transition towards recognizing your value, recognizing your worth, and getting much more comfortable with setting a fee that actually works for you. And that's not me saying you need to start charging £100 a session. For you, that might be moving from £50 to £60. For you, that might be moving from £60 to £75, or it might be that you want to set a fee that's over £100. That it's going to look different for everybody depending on what your personal needs are, how many clients you're able to see, what your outgoings are, the number of dependents that you have. The fee that you are setting will have many variables. So even just thinking about that number, that rate, that fee is probably not the same as what someone else is. That's going to be unique to you, and that your fee should be unique to you. So a couple of things that I really want you to consider. Well, the first thing is it is so important to value your experience and value your expertise. If you were to actually do an exercise where you were to sit down and write how much money you have invested in order to get this career, how much you've personally invested, not just in CPD and books and training courses, how much you've maybe invested in your own personal therapy, in your supervision. If you actually did an exercise where you sat and wrote that all out, I bet it would be a phenomenal amount of money. Certainly I did that exercise myself, and it was an eye-watering amount of money that I have spent in the years to do the job that I'm doing now. And so it's time to get payback. You know, that you have invested so much time, so much money, so much energy in this career. It is time for you to earn a worthy income. And I think like therapy is one of the few fields where like people spend so many years and invest so much in their training to then it just be normalized to basically charge a crappy fee or earn a crappy income as a result. Like we wouldn't expect that of doctors or other professionals that spend a lot of time and a lot of money training to do what they do, but for some reason within our field it's just sort of normalized that a low salary is attached to it. So maybe even think about doing that exercise, like how much have you paid for your courses, how much of your personal time have you invested, how much have you spent on therapy, supervision, and all of these additional costs that come with your training, and you might just be surprised at what that final figure is. So it's really important that you value that and that it's perfectly okay for you to expect to now earn an income from that investment that you've made. The second one is around the sustainability of your practice. Like if you are just choosing a fee because that's what everybody else does, or you're trying to be cheaper than other therapists in your area, or you're offering maybe significant discounts for block bookings, maybe you're offering concession fees and you're offering way more concession fees than you can really actually accommodate, that if you're doing that, and you're not actually treating it like a business with costs, it's possible that your private practice won't actually survive, because what you maybe aren't taking into consideration is all of the other costs that are associated with outside of just that 1 hour that you're spending with a client. There's so much more outside of that. Think about the time that you actually spend writing content, for social media, building your website, the amount of time you spend marketing yourself, the amount of time you even spend on admin or doing research to work with a client, or the amount that you spend on supervision, or even just your overheads, like how much money do you spend on Zoom or on practice management software or on room rental or on electricity and services for your room. Like there are so many kind of hidden costs as well that come with running a private practice. So if they're not taken into consideration, then it's possible that you may struggle to survive. And I think that's what I see an awful lot, is that the private practice is almost treated like a little hobby on the side. It's almost treated like pocket money as opposed to treating it like a business. And if you have a private practice, you are the CEO of that business. And as a result, as the CEO of your business, you have to be making profit and you have to know your figures. The third one, and I think this is a big one again that gets overlooked when we think about like charging higher fees and what that might mean in terms of the type of client that we might attract, that certainly from my personal experience, when I moved to charging a higher end fee, that I attracted a client that could afford my fee. And what I also noticed was that there was much more in terms of just client engagement in the work. So I used to work in, like I said, GP surgeries, community organisations, where either it was free of charge, they were accessing my services, or it was a really low affordable fee. And invariably, like, there would be cancellations, no-shows, DNAs. That's very, very rare for me now in private practice, because people are investing a significant amount of money. They're seeing it as an investment, and so they are much more committed to showing up for the sessions and for really doing the work. And cancellations, no-shows just generally don't happen. Obviously there's emergency situations that are going to come up from time to time for clients, but generally like attendance and involvement and participation in sessions is really, really good. So it's completely okay for you to charge a higher fee and to attract clients that are willing and are happy to pay your fee, and know that they're going to be more invested in the therapy as a result of that. Like, that is perfectly okay for you to do that. And then the final thing is just the sheer fact that, okay, we are in a cost of living crisis and prices have increased across the board, but prices have increased across the board for you as well. So if your fees, your living expenses, your mortgage, how much you're paying on groceries, all of this stuff has increased for you, and other businesses are all putting up their prices and increasing their fees as a result as well, that should also apply to you, that if your expenditure has increased, then you have to cover that as well. And the only way you can cover that potentially is actually through increasing your fees and setting a higher rate as well. So those are kind of just four. I mean, I could probably go into loads more reasons why it's perfectly okay for you to have a higher fee and set a higher fee that makes you potentially stand out more from the crowd, whatever that may look like for you. There could be loads of reasons that I could go into. But ultimately, this is your private practice. This is your business. And so you get to decide what it looks like for you. You get to decide the structure, the model that you want to do in your practice. You get to decide the rate of fee that you're going to charge. You get to decide what your cancellation policy is going to be. You have the autonomy to do that. And I think another part that just gets completely missed is that you're not forcing anybody. You are not forcing your client to come and work with you at your fee. The client is choosing to work with you. So there have been instances where maybe someone has had a discovery call with me or inquired with me, and they've maybe not checked my website properly, they've maybe not checked my fees, and they've come to then the realization that actually they can't afford to work with me. That is okay, because there are plenty of other therapists out there that will be able to accommodate that client. And so it's not my responsibility to make myself affordable to everyone, because I don't want to work with everyone. I want to work with clients who are motivated, engaged, and are able to pay my fee without stress or without hassle or without anything attached to it. And that's okay. I also want to work with a smaller caseload, which is one of the reasons why I charge more of a higher end fee as well. And that's perfectly okay for me to do so. I work with complex cases, I work with eating disorders. I only want to work with a small caseload of clients. Perfectly okay for me to do that. So I really want you to remember that there is a price point that is right for everyone. If you charge £30, you're still going to be too expensive for some people. You charge £60, you're going to be too expensive for some people. But there are people for every price point. And your role, I guess, is in marketing yourself to your ideal client and to attract in your ideal client. And that's the thing that really I try and hold on to and remind myself of as much as possible. My role in marketing my practice is in writing good content, is writing good website, and is to speak to my ideal client to attract them in. And if my price point is wrong for them, they can find another therapist that is right for them. If they're making a call, booking a discovery call, and expressing interest in working with me, then they're making that choice. There is no coercion that is going on here. So I think the argument that comes up, about it being unfair, about being too expensive, about people not being able to afford your services, there is a price point for everyone. And I just want you to remember that there are people out there who will pay at different price points for therapy. And if what maybe comes up is the feeling of guilt perhaps of charging a fee for helping someone, I want you to also consider that there might be other ways in which you can offer value. There might be other ways in which you can give back that just don't have to be you offering a lower fee. That might be like maybe you already do voluntary work for other organizations. Maybe you donate to charity, a cause that you're passionate about. Or maybe you don't do that at all, but maybe you offer value in other ways, If you're active on social media, are you offering loads of value in terms of what you post, the content that you post? Maybe you have a newsletter that you send out to your clients that offers really good value and really good support. Maybe you have resources that they can download on your website where they have guides and information and things like that. Like you can offer value and you can offer resources in other ways. You could also offer different services at different price points. So maybe if you are charging a slightly higher fee in your therapy practice, well, perhaps you could do group sessions, maybe you could do workshops, maybe you could run self-study courses, that you could offer different services at different price points, and perhaps that can maybe help with some of the discomfort that can be felt around charging that higher sort of price point for therapy services. And I had this conversation with my membership group last week, and it was about having like a portfolio and a variety of different options potentially for clients. That I think that can be a great idea, because maybe not everybody is in the same place. Like maybe everybody is not in the place where they're willing and ready to engage and invest in therapy. And so what if there was other options for them? So like I offer half-day breakthrough sessions, and they can be really helpful. Like people can really get a lot out of those sessions. So it doesn't necessarily have to look like the only thing that we can offer clients is longer term work or longer term therapy and working on a one-to-one basis. That people can still get value out of engaging with you in other ways, whether that be through one-off intense sessions, whether that be through a resource that you offer, whether that be through audio training, video training, a workshop, that people can still get something from those things, that it doesn't have to necessarily be that there is just a long-term relationship and therapy that is being engaged in. So that might be something that you want to have a think about. But as I said earlier, and what I will come back to, is that this is your practice. This is your business. You are the CEO of your business, and so your fee is yours to set accordingly in a way that works with you, your needs, that covers your outgoings, that brings in an income that is comfortable for you and provides the needs that you have. So I hope that you have found that helpful today. I hope it has given you a little bit of food for thought. If you have been hesitating around your fees, holding back, charging a fee much lower than what you actually want or need, I hope that you take this podcast episode today and it gives you the encouragement that you need to take that step. So thanks for tuning in today. If you would like to learn more about my services, please head over to my website. The address is www.theenrichpractice.com, and I am so passionate about helping counsellors and therapists to make a real impact, and I would be delighted to help you on your private practice journey. And if you found this episode helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could share it with other people that might benefit. But until next time, take care.